What used to take me an entire day now takes about 8 minutes. I'm talking about competitor research, document analysis, meeting prep, all of it. And the shift didn't happen because I got faster at typing or better at skimming. It happened when I started using Gemini 3.0 Pro the way it was intended, instead of following the basic Google tutorials. These are the 4 workflow techniques that made that possible. The first workflow is document processing, and this is where Gemini 3.0 Pro separates itself from every other AI tool on the market right now. Gemini has a 1 million token context window, which in practical terms is roughly 750 pages of text in a single conversation. That's an entire year of quarterly reports, meeting notes, and project documentation analyzed together. And the reason this matters is because previous AI tools could technically accept large files, but they would skim them. Gemini 3.0 Pro actually reads and understands the entire thing, which changes how you can use it for work. Let me show you what this looks like. Starting at gemini.google.com, we select the Pro version from the dropdown. Next, I'll upload our 4th quarter compliance report, which is 12 pages of dense legal language, and I'll type, "Read this entire document, extract every action item, deadline, and compliance requirement. Flag anything that needs executive attention." And here's what Gemini gives me. A structured summary organized by priority. What would have taken me 4 hours of reading and highlighting took about 90 seconds. But where it gets interesting is that I can actually follow up without starting over. I'll type, "Compare the compliance requirements in this report to the ones from quarter 3. What changed?" And Gemini remembers everything from the first document and cross-references it with the new information, showing me exactly what was added, what was removed, and what was modified. No re-uploading, no re-explaining the context, and no starting from scratch. The practical applications here are massive. For contracts, you can upload a 50-page agreement and ask Gemini to identify every clause that creates an obligation for your company. For legal reviews, you can have it flag anything that deviates from your standard terms. For research papers, you can ask it to extract the methodology and findings without reading the entire study. And for financial reports, you can have it compare this quarter to last quarter and highlight the significant variances. So if you're working with massive documents, this is the workflow that actually lets you pull out what matters. The second workflow showcases Gemini's multimodal processing capabilities. And this is something that genuinely surprised me when I first tested it. Gemini 3.0 Pro processes images, charts, screenshots, and full videos all in the same conversation, which means you can mix and match different types of content and ask questions across all of them. Let me start with image analysis. I'll upload this quarterly revenue chart, which is dense, with multiple data series and small labels, the kind of thing that takes careful reading to fully understand. And I'll type, "Analyze this chart, identify the highest performing quarter, flag any concerning trends, and calculate year-over-year growth." Here's what came back. Gemini reads every data point, identifies that the second quarter was the highest performing quarter at $4.2 million, spots a concerning downward trend in the third quarter that I actually missed when I first looked at this, and calculates year-over-year growth. It even notes that the third quarter dip coincides with our product transition period, which is the context it pulled from the chart labels. This works for invoices, where you can upload a photo and have it extract all the line items into a table. It works for org charts, where you can ask it to identify reporting relationships, and it works for whiteboard photos from meetings, which is something I use constantly. Here's a whiteboard from our last strategy session, and half these notes are barely legible. I'll type, "Read everything on this whiteboard and organize it into action items with the owners." And Gemini reads the handwriting, interprets the arrows and groupings, figures out which names are associated with which tasks, and structures it into a clean action item list I can share with my team. Before this, I would spend 20 minutes after every meeting transcribing whiteboard notes. With Gemini, it takes about 30 seconds. Now here's where it gets even more useful, because Gemini can also watch videos, not just analyze thumbnails or transcripts, but actually process video content frame by frame and understand what's happening. I used this just last week as I needed to review a 45-minute product demo to see what features were announced, but I didn't have time to sit through the whole thing. So I just pasted the YouTube link into the Gemini input box and typed something like, "Watch this demo and extract every feature mentioned, organized by category with timestamps for the major announcements." And here's the result. Gemini watched the entire video, categorized every feature into sections like automation, integrations, and reporting, and gave me timestamps so I can jump directly to the parts that matter. An hour of watching condensed into about 2 minutes of reading. This works for training videos you need to summarize, webinars you missed, recorded meetings you need to catch up on, basically anything where you need information from video without actually sitting through it. The third workflow connects Gemini directly to your work apps, which means Gmail, Calendar, and your Drive all become searchable from one place. And this is probably the workflow I use most often in my day-to-day work. You enable workspace extensions in your settings, and then Gemini can access your actual work data. By the way, this also works on the free plan, which surprises a lot of people. I'll type @workspace, find all emails from the last 2 weeks mentioning the Henderson project, and summarize the key decisions made. And Gemini scans my inbox, pulls the relevant threads, identifies who said what, and organizes everything into a summary with dates and key takeaways. What would take 20 minutes of scrolling through emails takes about 15 seconds. I also use this to catch things I might have missed. I'll type @Google Calendar @Gmail, pull my calendar for the next 3 days and cross-reference it with my inbox. Which meetings am I underprepared for? Flag anywhere someone sent materials I haven't opened. And here's what Gemini found. It identified that my Friday client call has a deck attached to an email that I never opened. It also flagged that my Saturday budget review has a document shared in a thread I should review. These are gaps I would have walked into unprepared, and now I can address them before the meetings happen. For my Drive, I'll type something like, find the most recent proposal I worked on and summarize the pricing section. And Gemini surfaces the document, identifies it as the version from November, and summarizes the 3-tier pricing model we offered. I didn't have to hunt through folders, open 5 different versions, or even try to remember what I named the file. The power here is that Gemini can search across all 3 apps simultaneously. So if I'm preparing for a client meeting, I can ask it to pull the last proposal from my Drive, summarize our recent email correspondence from Gmail, and show me what meetings we've had from my calendar, all in one prompt. The fourth workflow is deep research, and this is where Gemini stops being a chatbot and becomes an actual research assistant that works autonomously. When you select deep research from the prompt bar, Gemini launches an autonomous agent that goes out on its own, reads dozens of sources, evaluates their credibility, identifies gaps in the information, searches again to fill those gaps, and then synthesizes everything into a structured report with citations. This is fundamentally different from just asking a question and getting an answer. For example, I'll type, research the top 5 project management tools used by enterprise companies in 2025. Compare pricing, key features, and integration capabilities. Include source links. And watch what happens. First, Gemini creates a research plan, showing me the subtopics it's going to investigate. Then it starts searching, and I can see it reading through articles, vendor pages, comparison sites, and review aggregators. It evaluates what it finds, identifies conflicting information, searches again to verify, and then synthesizes everything. And here's the result. A multi-page report with organized sections for each tool, a comparison table, pricing breakdowns, and every claim backed by a source link I can verify myself. The sources include vendor documentation, G2 reviews, industry analyst reports, and recent news articles. This is research that would take me hours of searching, reading, comparing, and organizing. Gemini did it all while I grabbed a coffee. On the free plan, you get 5 deep research reports per month, and the paid plan makes it unlimited. If your job involves any kind of competitive analysis, vendor evaluation, market research, or due diligence, this feature alone justifies the subscription. So now you know the 4 workflow techniques that separate Gemini Power users from everyone else. And here's what happens when you stack these together. You can process a document in 90 seconds, analyze the charts inside it, cross-reference it with your emails, and generate a research report comparing it to industry benchmarks, all in one session. But the quality of that entire chain depends on one thing, which is how you prompt. So I made a dedicated guide that breaks down the exact techniques on how to prompt so you get the best results. Click the video on your screen right now, and I'll see you right there.